So, here we are, Mindwiseman, aka Maverick Outdoors, Pete, on a Sunday lunchtime on the 3rd of May 2015. And we're off towards mountains, Fanfar, which Dave Mountain Goat's just doing a recce on the map because the mist is coming down, and we're going to make sure, I'll say that again, we need to make sure that we've got our bearings.
And that path, you see how tight that is?
Yeah.
We would have had to try and really go up high, steep.
Yeah.
So we're going to go in between these and head for this here.
Got it.
That'll be our marker. And we're in the low ground there.
Right. Spot on. So there you heard the voice of his mate Mountain Goat Dave recceing on the map, as we're now going up towards, or around the boundary of Fanfar, which is up that direction. But behind us, where we've just come from in the mist, right up there, is Corndou and Penai Fan, which is the last time we came up here just over a year ago. But we decided to come the other side and go to the eastern area and terrain of what is classically known as the Black Mountains. So my rucksack is kitted up with stuff for the next 24 hours. But here's some footage of the kit, food, before I loaded it up. So after having a good hearty high calorie breakfast before I leave home, here's the beverage section of the first 24 hours. Biscuits, snack bars, chocolate, 3-in-1 coffee, creamer for tea or coffee, tea bag, sugar, cold chocolate drink, hot chocolate drink. These come out of army issue ration packs. And then probably when I'm sort of halfway through the trek, we'll just stop off somewhere on a slope or valley, and that's high calorie. I can eat this cold. MRE ration pack, heaters, flameless ration heaters, which will be specifically for my evening meal, which will be a bread snack and also beef roast with vegetables. So I'll have that with the portion of dinner, which will be heated up in that. But I'll have that as a starter, again replacing the calories. And then probably later on for pudding, again army issue ration pack, rice pudding with a maple syrup bun. Next morning for breakfast, I don't want to be using any cooking utensils, anything to heat up. All I want to do is just boil up water in the kettle, so minimalist bits of kit. So I can eat this cold, high protein, calories, maybe both of these, with 2 buttered bread wraps. What I've done here, before folding them in half, you can see I vacuum packed them, but once I've buttered them and then fold them in half, I then put a thin skim of extra virgin olive oil, then folded them. So when I unwrap this, it becomes just a little bit easier to take them apart. So that's going to be my breakfast. Also on the trek, there'll be these high sugar, natural flavoured sweets, which are always nice to digest rather than sort of low calorie ones. Tomato sauce mixed with a tangy fruity sauce, salt and pepper, some stock cubes, a few little basic sundries in there that come out of an army issue ration pack, some wipes, a bit of chewing gum, and these sweets I'll be sucking with sips of water, as you'll see me out on the trail. Here's another little item which I might consume with water as well to keep the calories up and the energy. So here's all the kit ready to be packed into the rucksack, and you'll see all the items here being used in situ and real time when I'm out on the trek and trail. British Army issue Tropical Army 2-season sleeping bag, softy jacket, softy trousers, body warmer, kneeling mat, lightweight thermal mat for inside the floor on the tent, 120cm by 50cm inflatable mat, again British Army issue. And then here I've got just some extra bits and pieces, Gore-Tex socks, if the weather's going to be really inclement and the ground we're going on is really going to be sodden, so I want a bit more waterproofing for my socks. Buff, thin gloves, these have got a little patch on them which enables you to actually use your fingers on a touch screen phone if need be. I'll wear these initially, then I can put these sealskin waterproof semi-thermal gloves over the top. These 2 layers are really thermal for your hands, but these I like to have more of a sort of sense of my hands rather than having too thick a surface of gloves. Pack light waterproof trousers, gaiters, and then here is just an extra change of clothes, thermal socks, Dutch Army issue. Want to take my boots off, clean change of socks, underwear, hat, vest and another shirt, because I get very perspiring when I'm out on the trek and trail. Hence plenty of wet wipes for personal hygiene and just cleaning yourself over, microfiber towel. There's my tent kit with a ground sheet wrapped around it, kettle, saucepan, butane, stove, and backup if there's a fail here. Then I've got the hexamine stove, first aid kit, and one's first aid kit always being updated, amended with other new items that can replace older ones, or you might find better bits of kit than the original stuff maybe you were going to use. But I'll go into the spec of my first aid kit another time. And a little improvised tool I've made there for out on the trek and trail, but I'll tell you more about that when I'm actually using it. And if you follow my Maverick Outdoors activities on my channel, you're going to recognise a lot of this stuff, especially the sleep kit there that I've used many times before, and some of these other items. But considering this is as minimalist kit as possible, considering the calculated challenge of the trek and trail where I'm going to be, and the sort of terrain, which has very unpredictable weather conditions, so obviously you've got to be safe and sound and have the right kit without overloading. But now to get this in the rucksack.
I feel like I'm gonna be inside you when the sun goes down. As long as I'm gonna be around you when the sun goes down, yeah. I feel like I'm gonna be inside you when the sun goes down. As long as I'm gonna be around you when the sun goes down, yeah.
So, yeah.
Right, and we're off down there?
Yep.
Cheers, buddy. So if you imagine we're contouring with a little bit of traverse to make our way around the northern or northeast edge of Penlia, and if the weather holds off and it's safe enough to do so, and we can see where we're going and we get orientated, then objectively we'd like to get to Fan Ned. Anyway, I'm going to close off now and focus on the terrain. Bring it on.
Slightly more than that, but we'll move on.
Okay, so we're just having a bit of a break and a snack. We're off to that reservoir. It's a location where we're going to bash her up, but I've had problems with my leg and hip. So Dave, my rucksack on his back and his one on his front. So what had happened, I'd lost a bit of a footing and my hip jarred on the injury that I've got, and then my ankle went. I sort of bared with it, but the terrain that we had to cover and the distance, if I'd have had that weight on my back, my rucksack, would have compounded the sort of strain on my ankle, so to speak. I didn't actually twist my ankle as such, but it was just compounding with the weight. So Dave, as you can see, has got both rucksacks. Mate, that's an oppo for you. Well, what can I say? Welcome to my abode. With a view from my mountain tent, where one can see, just with the mist casting over the top of it, the ridge of Fan Elia. And then inside, as the wind rumbles on the peak of my tent, you can see the space. You've seen this tent before if you follow my travels. And a bit of warmth from the rain and breeze, having this thermal insulation on the ground. So I've got a small ground sheet underneath the footprint of the floor of the tent. The 1 metre by 2 metres, so it's just wide enough, because this is about, across here is about 1 metres 10 centimetres. This tent is absolutely brilliant because of the small footprint, so you don't have to rely on a large ground space. So it's a little bit maybe like sort of like a hooped bivvy bag, but obviously much more glorious than that, as you can see, because I've got sitting up space in it. But on the way up here I was sipping water out of my bladder, 2.5 litre bladder, and I had a cheese wrap. So I actually saved this to have as soon as I'd set up and pitched the tent. And now I'm going to have, in a moment, the rice pudding with the cinnamon bun. And again, you saw all the food stuff that I showed displayed on the table, and here's some of the food which I've got for the first sort of 24 hours, if you want to call it that, which I'd highlighted, and it's in that box. I've mentioned before, the last time I was up on Brecon Beacons when I did Corndu and Pen and Fan with Mountain Coat Dave, and the altercation we got in when we did the return journey, where I did the epilogue for that video, and of course we helped each other with that last escapade we did when we were up on Brecon Beacon. And then of course Dave came to my aid by offering to be literally a packing mountain goat, and offered to carry my rucksack, because I was having a bit of a problem once I'd sort of twisted my ankle a little bit. But eventually what we did, because my rucksack was a little bit heavier than his, what I then eventually did was carried his rucksack, because it was a bit lighter than mine by maybe about 3 or 4 kilos. So that made all the difference, and we eventually decided to actually pitch on this slope that overlooks part of the estuary leading into the reservoir, which is further over there, which we highlighted earlier. So with the reservoir being just over the top of those fence, and Fan Leo just over there, and then just further beyond, right over that direction, right over the other side of that ridge, is Fan Ned, which we were planning to go to first of all, but we decided to sort of detour around and took a different route, and then came in between, sort of on this slope, which is actually the other side, this direction here, is actually Fan Far. So we're sort of in between Leo and Far. So you can see in the porch of the tent, there's my wet boots, wet clothing I took off, socks and t-shirt, waterproof trousers and a waterproof jacket. Obviously that's the only practical place for them to be, but hopefully when it's a little bit more clement weather, I'll put them outside, maybe on that railing over there, that fence railing, and get them a bit of an airing and just see if we can dry them off. And once we decided to pitch here, as you can see the mist has been coming over, but on lower ground it then sort of converts into rain with the low pressure breeze and wind. And as we started to sort of set up camp, that's when the rain sort of hit us. But we were really lucky. It was actually predicted to be rain right from this morning, right the way through till beyond now, which is coming up to about nearly 7 o'clock in the evening. So although it's awkward sort of setting up your camp when it's raining and a bit windy, we sort of compared what would we have preferred if we had a choice to have trekked for the sort of 3-4 hours over the nearly 5 miles that we've trekked, the terrain we've taken, to sort of see some nice views of the mountains. We thought pouring rain while on the trek, or pouring rain when you set up your camp as soon as you can. So we decided, considering the terrain we've been on, and it was quite a mission. It was good, you know, we knew what it was going to entail, but you know, it's hard work. So when you're doing it in the rain and the wind, especially when it's misty and you get a grey out or a white out and you can't see, we were lucky enough not to have any mist you could see the majority of the scenery, as you can sort of see here and what you've seen when we've been on the trek so far. So we thought, yeah, okay, we've been given leniency by having reasonable dry weather trekking here, so we thought, okay, if we've got to get payback, then we'll just get soaking wet while we're setting up the camp. So as soon as I got set up, basically started to unpack some stuff that I needed, like some dry clothes, and put those on. Had a all over wipe over with the wet wipes, had a sort of clean up, freshen up, put some dry clothes on the upper body. Trousers were okay, a little bit of dampness from the knees down to the ankles, but that's drying out from my own body heat. But I changed my socks, and then I put my Gore-Tex liners over the top, and then just for warmth, a bit of thermal insulation. But I thought these Dutch Army socks, they're actually boot liners, so I've got 3 layers there. My feet are nice and warm now, but I thought with these liners off and I've just got the Gore-Tex over my socks, if I do have to put my feet back in my wet boots, then at least it's going to keep the socks dry, because I've got the Gore-Tex socks over the top of my normal socks. So all good stuff. And as you can see, Dave as usual has gone hardcore with his basher. Originally tried to set it up there, so that I had to open my tent so we could see each other, but for some reason he couldn't get any fixings on that ground, so it tends to be a little bit softer there, so that's more practical. We're just shouting at each other, communicating like you do when you're out wild camping. But there's a little bit of life on them Dar hills. Some sheep, we saw some horses, ponies. There was some other stuff that I would have liked to film, but you know, it was better to sort of focus on the trek and where we were going, and some of the terrain was a little bit unstable. So yeah, it's we're just unwinding now, so replacing some well-deserved calories. So I'm going to tuck into this dessert, and then make a brew with my Primus and my kettles in there. So I'm just going to have a nice hot sweet cup of tea, and I'll actually get hungry again in another hour, so I'll make something else to eat out of that box. But I'm just going to tuck in some food, and I'll catch you in a little while. Yummy. A last minute improvisation that I made. A mallet. Just really simple, just a piece of wood from a pallet. That's all I had access to in my garage. Pallet that I broke up for firewood and for barbecue, and so I just had this length, got my machete, just carved out a little bit so it was ergonomic for the hand, put some masking tape round it because that was the easiest thing I had. I mean, any tape can be used, gaffer tape, sellotape, anything really, the thicker the better, but I had loads of this, so I just wrapped that round, and even if it just lasted me for this outing, and if the wood have split then it didn't really matter, but it's really held its own. So that was really handy, just to knock the old tent pegs in, because the amount of times when you can either get a tent peg and you're pushing it in with your hand and it hurts the palm of your hand, or you push it in, or endeavour to push in a tent peg with the heel of your boot, sometimes it's just not conducive for purpose. So that was just something I made at the last moment. So now you know what this is. It might be a regular bit of my kit. I've mentioned a number of times before about hydration of the body when you're doing physical exertion for a long period of time, and keeping your blood sugars flowing through, or the glycogen levels as it's called. There's a lot of stuff I learned when I was a personal trainer for 15 years, where I was coaching all different types of athletes, sports people, exercise, all those sort of things, and of course hydration is a very important aspect. So what I'll most probably do tomorrow is, when we're trekking back, which is going to be way up over there, I'll explain a few fundamental principles while I'm actually on the move, so it actually puts it in a better perspective. But as you can see inside my tent, it's starting to get a little bit dusky dark. Not really much light at the moment, and that old mist is still there. The rain has held off just a little bit over the past hour or so, but you can just hear little specks on the fly sheet of the tent. But it's coming up to about 8:30 now in the evening, so within the next half hour to an hour it's going to get completely dark. So I'm going to be making something else to eat. That's if I don't doze off for a little while, just sort of like really chillax, listen to the wind cascading over the top of my tent. But in the next hour or so I think I'll be making something else to eat, so I've really got a lot of reserve calories for that trek back tomorrow. So it's now coming up to 11 o'clock at night. It's light rain outside, the breeze and wind has died down, so that's good. Hopefully later on during the night, if the weather forecast stands as it's supposed to be, then the weather's going to get a little bit milder, so hopefully it won't get any worse than what it is now. So we're going to settle for the night, and just going to adjust RAV power lantern. Great bit of kit, so I've used this many times, you've seen it featured in other videos, especially in the camo tent, when I very seldom use a tent because I prefer a basher tarp. That's the old RAV power lantern. It's also got a connection on it where you can recharge it from a mini USB, and also recharge any item like a mobile phone with a mini USB connection. So there's a larger connection there, and then the smaller one that side. So yeah, I'm going to settle for the night. I'm going to switch that off in a moment and then replace it with this glow stick. So I've just got ambient light, so if anything kicks off during the night, at least I can see straight away as soon as I wake up and my eyes are open, and then I can switch that back on. So catch you in the morning.
couple of times face to face with a couple of slugs.
You calling the sheep over?
Yeah.
Lamb chops for breakfast, yeah? Good morning, it's now 8:30 and that weather's certainly cleared. Rain was intermittent during the night. The wind died down by about 3 o'clock in the morning, just woke up a few times. But yeah. So now I've got to get some more calories and make something to eat, get some breakfast on the go. So the 120 by 50 centimetre self-inflating mattress was on top of the lightweight foil mat, and softy jacket and trousers over my day clothes, and then just unzipped the 2-season tropical sleeping bag and just dressed it over me like that, so that was okay. But actually I didn't actually put the old sleeping bag on because I was pretty comfortable just in my jacket and trousers, but I didn't actually get the sleeping bag and bring that into use until about 2 o'clock in the morning, so yeah, all good stuff. But before I just make something to eat, I just quickly show you what was in my possibles pouch. Really simple, I didn't need anything elaborate because of the terrain. We're not bushcrafting, you know, there's no trees, there's not going to be any fire lighting or anything, so a handful of batteries for my torches in the back part of the zipper, head torch, water purifying tablets, bootlaces, a little charging stick for the phone with the lead, always got the fire steel, tin opener and another tiny little torch, Leatherman multi-tool, the sidekick, and just in here, folding mirror, so you know if you need to sort of check anything out in your eyes, make sure you get something, any foreign bodies in your eyes, any little bits of grit or what have you, and also for signalling, so I'll put all that back in this pouch. Well, that makes it all worthwhile. Putting up with a mission trek to get over here. View of water, what best elements, well you can't get any better elements than that. Water, mountains, blue sky, all a pattern of cloud. The tiger paws tent stood up to the breeze and the rain last night. So what I'm going to do now is pack up my rucksack, and that's the route we're taking. Sort of going to be going over that way, then sort of up there, then right up to that ridge, and then right over the other side. Just a few more views. Dave just said, what a place to wake up on a Monday morning. And today's weather is going to be potentially like this for the rest of the day, so at least for the next sort of couple of hours while we're out anyway, so it's going to be more clement. So we're going to be walking into the sun, so it's going to be squinting eyeballs. Anyway, I'm going to pack up my rucksack, and once I've got it packed up, I'll just hand print on the different areas what I actually put in and where I placed all the kit. Right, so Dave's on the off. And just a quick recap on the rucksack. It's a little bit blind, but just to sort of give a bit of perspective. In that lower half, below that zip, is my sleeping bag, softy trousers, softy jacket and wet wipes. And then the lower part here was my dry bag inside the main bulk of the rucksack. Dry bag with clothes and some of my wet clothes, food, mat going along here on this level, other sundries in here, butane gas, bit of cook kit, gaiters, first aid kit, of course old bag of sweets, and that's basically it. So I need to get this on my back now and get on the trek. Okay, that was a backbreaker. Fanfare to my right, but over there in that vale where the tributary starts to go into the reservoir over there, sort of right in there, that's where we came all round yesterday from, well, over there somewhere, came round and obviously went through the valley. But where I was pointing there, we came from all the way round yesterday and of course ended up by the entrance of the reservoir. And this area here, Fox Ridge, so you're coming up from the other side, you think that is that. Of course you read the map and you get your terrain, you get your bearings, the gradients and all that sort of thing, but you just always wish for the best. I think, oh no, there's a little bit more to go. So, trudge on. So, I've come about another, just over half a kilometre, and we were somewhere right over there. Come up to Fanfare a little bit further. Then I found Corndu is over that way. So I hope you come back and you blow me voice again. So where I pointed back there was where I just come from. Another, I don't know, 1.5, 2 mile trek. Once I get beyond that point there, hoping that's not a false ridge from my map reading, it'll be downhill from then on. So I'm just hoping that's not a false ridge, then it's going down with gravity. From then on, be a bit easier. So take it steady. So here I am at the cairn of Fanfare, forest pitch for the night, and we started off way over beyond down that slope, around there, all the way around, down through that valley, over the top, sort of all round there. So to where we started, so pick up the footprints. was going to talk about hydration and the right levels of sugar with water so your body takes it in properly and balances out, but it's a bit windy up here and the terrain's getting really steep now, so I'll do it on a separate part of the video.
Embracing the goddess energy within yourselves will bring all of you to a new understanding and valuing of life. Like a priceless jewel buried in dark layers of soil and stone, Earth radiates her brilliant beauty into the caverns of space and time. Perhaps you are aware of those who watch.
So the mound of fanfare over the edge of that first ridge where I've just come down. You lose your footing, and if you're coming down an incline really steep, and that's it, you're over. So yeah, all good stuff. Good times in the great outdoors. So the isotonic process of blood sugars diluted with water getting into your system to sort of replenish stored energy and energy, some of it that you've actually depleted out on the trek and trail or when you're doing actual physical exertion. So without going into the complicated process of the biochemistry of the body and how it actually hydrates when you need to, and the glycogen levels which are stored in your liver, and there's a small percentage that are stored in your muscles. So when you're exerting your body and you're burning off that glycogen which comes out of the muscle tissue, the art of it is to hydrate the muscles as they get depleted of the glycogen so that they don't get fully depleted. So then you have to go into the stores of the liver, and then once that's depleted, basically your body then totally fatigues. So if you imagine my hand is the body full of the stored blood sugars, if you want to call it that, to help you understand it easier. When we start to do physical activity, it starts to deplete. But what we're trying to do is, with the right sugar solution with the fluid that we're intaking, we want to sort of top it up. So it sort of goes like that, rather than, if you take my hand as the image, totally depleting, then has to go down into the stored glycogen in the liver, which we don't really want to happen. It does happen partially, but we're trying to defer that from happening. So the main thing is, don't allow yourself to get thirsty. Always try and keep thirst at bay. And obviously that's based on experience of how thirsty you get from physical activity. So the main aspect is keeping thirst at bay, just sips of drink every now and then so you never really get thirsty, because what happens when you don't allow yourself to get replenished and rehydrated as you're on the move, if you allow yourself to get thirsty, then the biochemistry starts to change, whereby you can lose up to 30% of your potential to continue with physical activity, and then it takes up to 6 to 12 hours for the blood sugars to get back into the muscles while they're resting for you then to keep going. So if we're talking about performance-related hydration, this is one of the main things you want to be considering. You can see this bottle, where my thumb is, down to the base, which is coloured blue, and it's marked off into 10 sections. Now, getting the right solution, not sugar-free cordial, a sugar-based drink, which is your favourite, not a low-calorie drink, because that doesn't serve the process. Your body's evolved to actually use blood sugars and carbohydrates, and in sugar-free drink there's no carbohydrates. So you'll get the fluid, but then you'll get the chemical sweeteners which actually don't serve a purpose at all. See, it doesn't have to be a bottle this size, but you need to be, whatever drink bottle you're using, imagine that it's got 10 sections to it, and the first section is where you want the cordial. So where I've shaded the bottle in blue, that will be the cordial, and then you fill it up to where my thumb is with water. So in layman's terms, a sugar-based cordial drink, 1/10 of the total fluid that you mix it with, allows your body to treat it isotonically. So what happens is you drink it, it gets absorbed in the stomach, but your body doesn't treat it like food. Because if you intake something that's got too many calories or sugar or carbohydrate, what it does, it confuses the biochemistry of the stomach, and then your stomach starts to treat it like food because of the density of the calories, maybe that you've added a bit too much. And then what happens is all your blood moves away from the working muscles that you're doing the activity with and goes straight into the stomach to help it digest the fluid that might have had too much of a rich mixture, which then confuses the stomach's biochemistry to treat it like food. So all the blood goes to the stomach. Obviously don't have anything to eat a big meal before you do any exertive physical activity, because all the blood rushes to the stomach to help the digestion process, which then depletes the oxygenated blood flow to help work in the muscle. But back to the bottle, if you just consider whatever your drink container, imagine there's 10 sections to it. The first section, section 1, you fill up with a cordial, then you fill the rest of it right up to the other 9/10, and that gives you the right mixture for your stomach not to think it's too rich and like a food. So what happens is it starts to absorb the sugar content of the liquid that you're actually drinking, and then it creates more of a hydration. So it allows still the blood flow to circulate through the muscles while your heart's pumping to get the blood flow oxygenating the muscles to keep you on the go. While you're keeping hydrated, taking that 1/10, 9/10 of water drink mixture, it's then allowing the stomach to absorb the fluid. In comparison, if this was just water, there'd be less chance of the fluid absorbing in the stomach and then being distributed to the activity of the muscles where the blood flow is taking that fluid. The actual research has shown that it's about 6% to 10% of the total volume of the fluid, which then becomes isotonic and allows your stomach to digest the water, not flush it right the way through the body, but to allow it to be absorbed by the wall of the stomach, which then allows it, if you think of it, of like the water expand into the rest of the body. So it's much more of what's called the isotonic process to keep the body hydrated and keeping your physical activity much more potential to keep it on the go. But then if you're just sipping on water, this is where the sweets come in. So if you imagine that as being 1/10, and then you take in about half a dozen to 10 mouthfuls of water, but on the safety factor, when you're out on the trek and trail, you could be breathing through your mouth and nose. You don't want to have this whole sweet. You lose your focus and you end up swallowing and maybe choking on it. So what I tend to do, I'll chew the sweet, crunch it up, swallow it, and then take swigs of water. So I create, with the water from either just plain water from a bottle, or as I did on the trek and trail when I was up on Brecon Beacons, out of the actual 2.5 litre bladder. It's sort of replicating in a very minute way the same principle as this. 1/10 sugar, the other 9/10 fluid. So you create that isotonic process. What I'm going to be doing very soon is actually focusing on a video which actually explains the complexities a little bit more in depth to make it easier to understand, and actually applying it to a physical activity. So as I'm doing a physical activity and then rehydrating, you can sort of get a better perspective of that process because I'm actually applying it in situ, in real time, to that particular activity. Now I'm going to summarise briefly the importance of replacing calories that you've burnt off when doing physical exertion more than what your physical exertion would be for normal daily activities. So sort of out on the trek and trail, if we're going to keep it on that subject. So basically it's called the carbohydrate window. So when your body's been working and all the blood sugars have started to deplete, if they totally deplete, then after you'd finished that physical exertion and you have a chance to rest, it's very important to get the calories in at that time. Normally within about an hour to an hour and a half. It's called the carbohydrate window. And if you imagine your muscles are like sponges and they're very receptive to convert the food and take the blood sugars more efficiently to put it straight back into the muscles when you've eaten that food. And you need to be doing that within at least the first hour to hour and a half of finishing that physical exertion. If you leave it any longer, up to a maximum of 2 hours, what it does, it shuts down that receptivity of the muscles to be like sponges to absorb the glycogen, and whatever food you eat after that carbohydrate window that's ready to take in the glycogen, if you leave it for too long, any food that you eat, once the window closed down, the glycogen will start to be processed in the liver. So then when you need to continue the physical activity, when you've had rest or the next day, when you start to do the physical movements, your body then has to take it from the stored reserves in the liver. But to bypass that and to make your body more proactive and responsive and more potential for the physical activity you have to continue to do a few hours later or the next day. So it's all about replenishing the calories as soon as you can after that physical exertion. So then your stomach starts to digest the food, has more efficiency to send the blood sugars back into the muscles, because then when you need to carry on with that physical exertion, like I said, the next day or a few hours later, the muscles are more responsive to actually function because they've got that stored glycogen, blood sugars in the muscles to switch on and get you on the move. Compared to leaving it for too long to replenish the calories after your physical exertion, which then of course loses the potential of that carbohydrate window, spongy absorbent muscle fibres to take in the glycogen ready for it. So if you miss that carbohydrate window, your body is less exertive performance related. Of course your liver's always functioning to supply the blood sugar levels to the muscles regardless of what time of day it is and what you're actually doing. But if we're talking about being more efficient with our physical activity, it's getting that blood sugar ready in the muscles, ready to be stored on. So it's a bit like trickle charging the batteries of a particular bit of machinery. The comparison of that is like with keeping hydrated with that small 10% of the sugar level, so we're keeping the hydration so the body can work efficiently. Plus also, once we've finished that activity, as I've just explained, getting the calories in so then we recharge the battery, which is as efficiently as possible, getting that blood sugar back into the muscles. So just like a set of recharged batteries up to 100%, they're ready then to make the machine, the torch, whatever it is you're going to use, be powered and be able to be effective to be used. We're sort of comparing it really, the body, with the same sort of approach. So believe it or not, that's the easy to understand layman's version, to give you an idea as to keeping your body working efficiently when you're doing anything physically exertive. Which takes us back to all the food and the hydration that I consumed on the trek and trail a couple of days ago when I did the wild camp on Brecon Beacons. All that food was relevant for me personally because I know I've got a very fast metabolism. If I do let my energies deplete and I don't get that carbohydrate window, I know myself that I won't actually have that potential as effectively to actually do efficiently the physical activity that I want to do the next day or a few hours later. There's one extra aspect that I will include at this particular moment. It's called the nitrogen balance, and again it's another sort of biochemical process of the body, but basically all you need to know is that our nitrogen balance in the body every 3 hours starts to deplete. So that's why it's important, if you're exerting your body for quite a long period of time, and considering myself and Dave, we probably burnt off about 12 to 1500 calories on the first day trekking for that 4 to 5 hours. So not only do you have to consume the calories just for your body to stay alive and function normally without doing anything specifically exertive, you've then got to think of the calories also to replenish what you've burnt off. So from my own experience, I know the amount of calories. I've got a bit of a reputation for eating quite a lot of food, but obviously it's not doing me any harm because I've got quite a lean body. I haven't got very much stored body fat. So of course, my muscle tissue is ticking over a higher metabolic rate. Every pound of muscle needs about 50 calories per day. So the more leaner the body is, the more calories you have to take, not just for the physical activity that you do, but also for your body to maintain that muscle tissue to help that physical activity. So you've got two aspects there, is in taking the calories for the physical exertion and also in taking calories to maintain the muscle tissue or the motors, the machinery of the body to allow that physical action to take place. I will be doing some videos on body conditioning and exercise that's relative to physical activity. So instead of it being, well, you know, you want to work your chest, so you do pec muscles, chest exercises, bench press, dumbbell flies. At the end of the day, the main aspect is what are you utilising your body for? So you wouldn't want to train like a bodybuilder if you're going to be a long distance runner or vice versa. So everything is horses for courses, and it's understanding and getting the perspective of the relevant exercises for specific activity, which I call activity specific. So as a lot of you know, a lot of my exercises or the physical activity that I do exercise wise sort of replicates some of the movements that I do either from canoeing to trekking, all that sort of thing. So not only is it health related fitness, which I would do anyway because it's been a lifestyle for me for many, many years, and for more than 20 years it's been part of my profession. I have had from social media, either from Facebook or YouTube, inquiries from people about how they can get back to being fit again, etc., because they know of my experience, and I have given some advice to people and guidance, but it's really important to consider getting one-to-one coaching. A lot of fitness establishments have very qualified and physiology and anatomy experienced personal trainers and advisors and exercise tutors. But the art of it is actually getting a personal trainer who can apply their knowledge to the specific things that you want from exercise. So rather than someone just walking into a gym and saying, okay, I want to get fit, I want to develop muscles, what tends to happen, there tends to be sort of a blanket overall exercise program that you see everyone doing. Everyone's doing the same thing. Of course, that's better than nothing at all. But if you can get the personal trainer or the exercise coach that can actually assess your character, your personality, what motivates you, what it is that you're exercising for. Is it just health-related fitness so you can keep physical independence as you get older? Or is it for a particular activity? Like I said, you wouldn't be doing strength training if you're doing something endurance. So a short-distance runner would train differently from a long-distance runner. So if you can find an exercise or personal trainer advisor that can actually treat you as an individual and actually can specifically assess what is specific literally for you and your activities, that's really what you're looking for, and that's the knowledge that you're after. I know it's easy for me to say because it's been a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle for me. I can't remember a time when I haven't been running around or doing some sort of exercise. So that's what literally got me into the profession of physical training and personal training, mind-body well-being and that sort of thing, which it's progressed into, especially over the past 10 years. So I am talking here from experience and results, people that I've trained with. I've been coached myself, diet, nutrition, principles of sports psychology from Olympic athlete coaches, internationally recognised coaches, lots of varied people that I've come across over the years, and from the things that I've learned from them, I've then been able to pass my experience and knowledge to help those people that have been my clients and people that I've trained over the years. So I am going to, in the near future, do some videos which are relevant and very easy to understand regarding exercise, activity-related exercise and conditioning, which hopefully will be helpful. And we'll also give you a little bit of motivation, not just for doing exercise for physical activities, but for one's health and well-being, which is really important. The epilogue part of this Brecon Beacons Wild Camp video, I am actually going to separate it, re-edit it and do it as a separate shorter video, actually containing the content of what was in this epilogue. So it's an easier point of reference if people want to come back to it, rather than having to link onto the Wild Camp and Trek video. They can go straight onto this specific subject and use it for reference in the future after watching it now. I've said it before, at the end of the day, we've all got our kit, all the right things to use when we're doing our outdoors activities, from bushcraft survival, our prepping knowledge and techniques. But at the end of the day, this is what we've got, our physical body. And we should consider keeping that condition just as much, keeping it as sharp, just as much as our favourite knife and blade that we carry to use outdoors. I feel very passionate about that because my interests have always been to do with well-being and one's physical potential. And sometimes we can actually open up new boundaries of what we can do from our experiences, and it creates new aspects and challenges for us to learn from and make us stronger as a character. So I hope you found this part of the video of interest, especially the earlier part when I did the Trek and Wild Camp. I hope it's inspired you to put them trekking boots on, get yourself conditioned a little bit and get out there and do something a bit more challenging. So, as always, thanks for watching. Really appreciate your interest, and I'll catch you in another video soon. Cheers, take care.